Join spiritual feminist and empowerment coach Joni Advent Maher for Trust Your Sacred Feminine Flow. Listen in for intimate conversations about money, transformation, and feminine sovereignty. And now, your host, Joni Advent Maher.
Welcome to Trust Your Sacred Feminine Flow. I'm your host, Joni Advent Maher, spiritual midwife and transformational guide. And today we're going to take a deeper look at sacred feminine flow. We're going to go back to the beginning, to the very start of this podcast, which was nearly 2 years ago that I conceived of the idea. And I was meeting with my producer, Shan Vanderleek, to talk about what the podcast was going to be about and what the title would be. And at the time, I was interested in doing a deep inquiry into women and money and empowerment and the power of transformation in our own lives. And I had some inner inklings and some inner knowings. And as Shan and I were talking through what was going to make the most sense or what was going to be most resonant for a title, we had a session one afternoon where I was sitting in my comfy chair looking out into the woods behind our house, and she was up in Michigan, and we were going back and forth. And I don't know if you've had that experience where the ideas are just flowing and the goosebumps come, or that sense of inner knowing just strikes. And that's kind of how it went as I was describing to her what both I wanted to explore and what the foundation for this deeper knowing within me was. We landed on this idea of trust your sacred feminine flow. And that has so many facets and so many meanings. And if you have listened to the interviews I've done over the last year and a half, you've heard many women describe their experience of sacred feminine flow. And I've been coming through these last 2 years feeling like something deeper, something both deeper within me and I would say beyond me has been communicating and guiding and teaching me about sacred feminine flow and what that means at the deepest level, at the level of ground that is supporting all of us. And that is what I want to touch on today, because it is a profound resource that's accessible and available to all of us. And in my experience, in these last 6 months in particular, it is a life changer. Being able to access this resource more consistently and consciously, it is a game changer, a life changer. It has changed my life, both around abundance and finance, around my belief in myself, and those ways that self-doubt can surface have diminished tremendously, as well as faith and confidence, not only in myself, but in the whole of life. Like all of that has come online in a powerful way that had not been as accessible to me as consistently or as fully. So I really want to share the wisdom and the gift of that with you today. And we're going to begin by doing a practice or a meditation. So if you're driving, you can go ahead and listen, or if you're in the midst of something and you cannot pause, go ahead and listen. But otherwise, I'm going to ask you to get comfy and relaxed and to close your eyes and to deepen your breathing. And as you do, to allow yourself to be moved by the power of gravity, so affected by gravity to the extent that you can sink more fully and deeply into your seat or into your feet if you happen to be standing. Or if you're lying down, just let yourself really be held as you sink fully into whatever state your body is in. And we're taking those long, deep breaths and feeling your rib cage expanding on all sides. So on side to side, front and back. And just notice if there's any tension in the body with your exhale that you can release and let that go. And now you want to bring your awareness to your heart space. And I would suggest that you place your hands on your heart, literally over your heart, and notice if you can feel that pulsation of your heartbeat. And that idea, just considering that your heart is receiving the oxygen that you need through your lungs, through your arteries. It's coming into your heart, and your heart is pumping it out to all the areas of your body. So I want you to begin to just imagine that you can see your veins, your arteries in all parts of your body, bringing you precisely what you need to sustain you, bringing you that powerful oxygen that can enliven you, that can bring life to every part of your being, to your brain, to your pancreas, to your uterus, to your breasts, to your spinal cord. And at the same time, it's doing an exchange of giving you precisely what you need. It is removing and carrying away what no longer serves you. So there is this powerful exchange occurring without you needing to do anything other than in this moment simply observing and bringing your awareness there. So again, just tuning in to that idea that your arteries and blood vessels and veins are this powerful conduit that are a channel for a flow, for a sacred feminine flow that is supporting your life every moment of every day. And if you come back to the starting point and the ending point, it's the heart that's doing the pumping and the distribution and the carrying. So bringing your awareness back to your heart and seeing if you can connect with a sense of appreciation or gratitude for the power of this system that is sustaining you and nourishing you without you ever needing to give it a thought. So we're going to bring our awareness back to the here and now as we've experienced that sacred feminine flow on the very physical level and shift our focus to the idea that this concrete physical way, that there is this flow that is always sustaining us without us having to work for it, earn it, be worthy of it, that reality mirrors and reflects a larger spiritual truth, a larger energetic reality that is present in our lives just as concretely as our heart and our blood vessels are. And that's what I want to speak to you about. And I'm introducing the idea first and foremost because just having an inkling or an awareness is a great place to start, knowing that it's possible. Because we get so caught up and captivated in our lives by, frankly, the stories of our mind and of other people's minds. There is so much going on at the mental level that is affecting how we move through our day. It's why mindfulness has become such a powerful practice these days, because it gives us the ability to open a door, which is the first doorway into a sense of accessing this sacred feminine flow. Because if you are tossed about by the stories, the impulses, the recycling of beliefs, both from culture, family, media, etc., if you're tossed about in those waves, you can never access a place of deeper resource. And so it is very important for us to have some facility when it comes to managing our mind. And then our mind, of course, deeply connects with our emotions and those emotions that get activated within us. It's kind of this feedback loop of the feelings and the stories. And the primary undercurrent that most of our culture, and I dare say population, human population, is wired into is the emotional matrix of fear. Fear and lack. It shows up. I just was marveling at the way that it shows up in all areas. When I think about how many women are suffering over preoccupation with body, with physical form, with the way they look, and this may be something you're struggling with as well. It's like that inner judgment about the way we look, what we have to offer, who we are, whether we're okay or not okay. It all boils down to the emotion of fear and a belief in lack, our own lack, or a lack of resources externally and our ability to access those. And when you look at all the suffering and pain and grief in the world, the vast majority is rooted in that, particularly in that there's not enough to go around. I am not enough. We are not enough. And the fighting, that belief that I have to take it or it's going to be taken from me. And it can boil down to the simplest things of how we relate to money and finance, how we relate to our peer relationships. It's if we are examining, what is the emotional undercurrent and what is the old story, typically there is some version of lack that's present. And even as things are toppling in terms of the patriarchy is all about power over. It's all about I need to dominate because that way I can control the resources. And the fact of the matter is, the wisdom that I have been receiving and the visions that I have been opening to are of the vast abundance of resource and flow that is right here and available to us, all of us, in each and every moment, if we know how to open to it, if we know how to root into it. And it's not about having to get better or to heal or to transform. It's about opening to this, you might call it a state of grace, or sometimes it comes to me as a river of divine love that has everything we need, just like our arteries that are carrying to us all that we need. And it is always working on our behalf. And that, my dear sister, is the deeper dimension of sacred feminine flow, that there is this power and this source in the universe that wants to be received by you and that is already taking action on your behalf and is already doing things to support you in ways that you may never understand or recognize fully. I began to talk about this in the September episode called It's All Right Here, and that was when I was beginning to notice it. But lately it's been coming in even more powerfully and clearly, where I can see the times when I get lost in a fearful old story, and I might be debating in my mind as to whether I need to do X or Y, or angsting about what's the right direction to go, or how do I need to address this. And meanwhile, all along, as I'm fretting and getting caught up with myself, there is this presence and this energy and this unfolding that is occurring, and sometimes even making choices for me. There are times where I am just taking action on my own behalf without consciously giving it a lot of thought, and then I come to realize in retrospect that is the sacred feminine flow working through me, pursuing what I most need in any given moment without my mind necessarily even paying any attention. And I will realize how perfectly things have come together in the aftermath and as I reflect. And quite frankly, the title of the podcast, Trust Your Sacred Feminine Flow, so many times has felt like a little postcard from the universe to me, because of course I say it every time I begin I begin an episode, but it is a little reminder to me, like, yes, you, Joni, trust your sacred feminine flow. Trust the sacred feminine flow. And this may sound like an abstract idea to you, or a little bit like, okay, Joni, what the heck are you talking about? And so I'll give you another story or another place where I have begun to notice it. So some of you may know that I work with a program called Woman Speak, which is a place where women can learn the art and soul of public speaking and really to find their voice. And so I have a local Women Speak circle that I am the leader of, and there are Women Speak circles all over the world. If you're interested in that kind of thing, you can Google Women Speak and you will find access. There may be something in your area. Anyway, one of the things that I have noticed in doing a Woman Speak circle for the last year, I have these beautiful women that come twice a month, and they practice sharing their talks that they want to give, and we work with different themes. One of the things I have noticed is that once a woman reaches a certain point in really connecting more deeply with herself, and in particular, her body, her physical body, her body wisdom, each woman taps into the source of wisdom that is unbelievable. I mean, it just blows my mind every time. And these are women just like you. Nothing quote special about them other than that they are all brilliant and astounding, but it's not like they're CEOs or whatever. They're just, some of them are stay-at-home moms, some of them are working in a corporate setting in their cubicle. They are your everyday woman, just like you and I. And I am telling you that I have been astounded by the brilliance coming through these women. And I know I was being shown, I was being told, like, this is the power of our sacred feminine flow. So some extent of it does show up as our inner wisdom and our intuition. It does show up in the form of our emotions and our physical body, as I said, like our bloodstream and our hormones. Like, those are all things that are in flow. But again, it's pointing to this something deeper that is this resource that is available to us. And when we recognize it as such, and when we say yes to it, and we deeply plant our roots into it, it can sustain and nourish us so powerfully. Oh, yes. And one of the powerful ways that we can begin to access it really is by coming more fully into our own physical body. That can begin with the affirmation and the recognition that this body really is your sanctuary, your sacred vessel for something so powerful and so beautiful and so profound and so sacred. And to remember that, and all those trips about what size and how many pounds and what shape and what form is such a distraction and frankly such a crock of shit perpetuated by the media, which is perpetuated by the patriarchy, which is deeply rooted in that old matrix of fear and of lack. It's what keeps us chasing our tail, trying to fit into some version of perfection that was sold to us and continues to be sold to us, and that keeps us so disconnected from our essential human nature and divine nature. It keeps us caught up in the struggle. So it is through coming back to the body, coming back to the power of our senses and our sensuality, that begins to connect us not only to other human beings through touch, through connection, heart connection, and physical contact. We also connect with the animal kingdom and with the natural world around us, and it begins to restore us both in our human nature, our instinctual nature, which I've talked about many times, as well as our sacred divine nature. And that bigger, more profound endless, abundant state of feminine flow that is illuminating and enlivening everything in our universe, everything in our world, everything in our life. And that is acting on our behalf in a powerful way every moment of the day without having to earn anything or be worthy of it. It's always there. It's always present. The sacred feminine flow continues to flow. And the more of us that know that, and the more of us that are plugging in or rooting in deeply to that matrix, the more we can begin to shift the state of our human family and the way things are going on the planet. The more we can unplug from that matrix of fear and of lack and of domination that is causing so much pain and suffering in our life. So if you feel called and a desire to root more fully into that matrix, that cosmic sacred feminine flow, you can join me next month for a virtual retreat I'll be offering called a Sanctuary Day, which will provide a small taste of some of the practices that I have found to be useful in opening to that sacred feminine flow in a more deep and full way. And then later in the spring, I will be offering a group program that might be of interest to you as well, which would be a deeper dive with some of your sisters to explore the grace and the flow and the power and the potency of this cosmic feminine force that's coming into our world and wants to be birthed through you as you. So, my beloved, until next time, as we bring this to a close, always trust what your heart knows. It is one of the primary ways that sacred feminine flow is communicating with and through you.
Thanks for listening to Trust Your Sacred Feminine Flow with Joni Advent Maher. If you like what you heard, the best compliment you can give us is to share our podcast with a friend and subscribe, rate, and review our podcast at iTunes.